You know how sometimes a movie based on a classic book just really grabs you, even if you're maybe not the biggest Austen fan?
Definitely.
Well, today we're diving into a really great example, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, but specifically that 2005 film adaptation.
The Joe Wright one, yeah. It's got this incredible staying power nearly 20 years on.
Exactly. So have you ever wondered, like, why some adaptations hit so hard, even with people who maybe haven't even read the book?
It's a fascinating question, and that's really our mission today, isn't it? To look at why this particular film works so well.
Right. We're looking at analyses comparing the movie to the novel.
Trying to figure out what made this cinematic take so enduring, how it maybe departs from the original text, and what that tells us.
Okay, so the core question is, what are the key differences between Austen's book and Wright's film? And crucially, why do those changes seem to make the movie so appealing still?
And a perfect place to start, I think, is that first proposal scene. It's pretty unforgettable in the film.
Oh, absolutely. The rain, the pavilion, yeah, very dramatic.
It really is. And it's such a strong contrast to the book. In Austen's novel, it happens indoors, right?
Yeah, quite contained.
Hmm.
And Darcy's feelings are much more hidden. Like, his proposal feels like it comes out of nowhere for Elizabeth.
Totally unexpected for her, and for the reader, too, in many ways. He's been so standoffish.
But the movie, wow, it's this huge, rain-soaked, emotionally charged confrontation. Matthew Macfadyen's Darcy is just, well, wearing his heart on his sleeve almost.
It's visually intense from the get-go, and that change in setting, the storm, Macfadyen's whole performance, it completely changes the audience's experience, doesn't it?
How so exactly? What does that visual drama do?
Well, cinematically speaking, it instantly signals a really high emotional pitch, something the book builds to more slowly, perhaps. The rain, that sort of isolated setting, it ramps up the tension, and Macfadyen gives us these visual cues. You know, the analyses mention held breaths, hand flexes, and sexual tension.
Right, you see this struggle before he even speaks.
Exactly. It hints at his feelings much earlier, building this anticipation for the audience. You're kind of rooting for him, or at least intrigued by his inner conflict in a way you might not be yet in the book.
That makes a lot of sense. You're more invested emotionally
Yeah.
earlier on. And speaking of Darcy, let's talk more about his character.
Mm.
The book's Darcy can come across as, well, pretty standoffish and prickly, right?
Yeah, that's how the Austen scholar Devoni Lucer puts it. His feelings are very much under wraps.
So how does Macfadyen's portrayal shift that? Because he is different.
He is. It's a really interesting aspect of the adaptation. The core is still there, the pride, the initial prejudice, definitely.
Sure.
But Macfadyen brings this brooding, almost tortured quality to it. You see how Elizabeth affects him. He looks pained sometimes.
Yeah, vulnerable almost, like he's misunderstood rather than just arrogant.
Right. And Lucer mentions this isn't entirely new. The idea of the attractive Darcy is something that pops up in 20th century adaptations, too.
Okay.
But Wright really leans into that romantic tension. It arguably makes Darcy more immediately sympathetic, maybe more desirable to modern viewers.
Desirable. Why do you think that is? Is it just the looks, the angst?
Well, maybe it taps into this contemporary idea that we want to see vulnerability in male characters, even the reserved ones. It's not just about being stoic.
We want to see the cracks.
Yeah, those glimpses of inner conflict are compelling. It feels more psychologically accessible, maybe.
Sympathetic is definitely the word. You feel for him earlier. Now, how does the film show us this visually? Let's talk about the visual storytelling. That scene at Netherfield when Elizabeth arrives to see Jane.
Oh, that's a great example because the focus shifts, right? In the book, or maybe other versions, the emphasis might be on, how muddy and windblown Elizabeth looks.
Right, her appearance after walking miles.
And you even hear Carolyn Bingley making that catty remark off-screen about her looking positively medieval.
Yeah, I remember that line.
But where does Wright put the camera? It focuses on Darcy's face. His intense gaze fixed on Elizabeth, her sort of wide eyes and cascading hair. As Lucer notes...
So we see his reaction to her, not just her state.
Precisely. It's like a window straight into his feelings, his fascination, maybe his tension. Stuff that Austen conveys through narration, the film shows us through Darcy's eyes, essentially.
We're getting his internal state visually.
Yeah.
Which leads perfectly to the hand flex.
The hand flex.
It's legendary. People sell T-shirts, right?
Yeah.
What's the big deal with that tiny moment?
It's tiny, but it speaks volumes about the film's visual strategy. He helps her into the carriage. Their hands touch just briefly. Then he walks away, and there's this slight, almost involuntary flex of his hand.
Like he was physically affected by the tear.
Exactly. It's a purely cinematic invention, not in the book at all. But it's this brilliant visual shorthand for his inner turmoil, the impact she has on him. It just lands with the audience, creates this palpable tension.
It's amazing how such a small gesture conveys so much. But the film isn't only about Darcy's internal state, or even just the main romance, is it? It seems to give little moments to other characters, too.
That's a really insightful point, and something Professor Justin Smith touches on. While the romance is central, obviously, Wright does seem to broaden the focus occasionally.
How so?
Smith uses the example of Mary Bennet. Remember when Elizabeth turns down Mr. Collins?
Oh, yeah. Poor Mary.
The camera just holds on Mary's face for a second, and she looks so wistful, almost longing.
Like she's thinking, I would said yes.
Right. Smith says a whole backstory emerges about her just in that look. It's unspoken, but you feel like you understand something more about Mary in that moment.
So these little glances give depth to the side characters.
Yeah, Wright uses these subtle visual cues to suggest everyone has an inner life. It makes the whole world feel richer, more interconnected.
Which contributes to that feeling Smith mentions, that it's more than just a love story, it's a family tale.
Exactly. It broadens the film's emotional landscape and potentially its appeal. It's not just for the hardcore romantic.
Interesting. So thinking about that broad appeal,
Yeah.
the film did really well back in 2005, right? Box office, critical acclaim.
Oh, absolutely. Big hit. Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars, got Oscar nominations, the soundtrack was popular, the visuals were praised. It definitely made an impact right away.
But the movie world is different now, isn't it?
Completely different. Our sources point this out. Movie theaters are struggling, those mid-budget dramas are harder to find. Even straightforward romantic films aren't as common as they were.
So why is this film still resonating? Why the re-releases and the continued love? Is it just nostalgia for 2005?
Well, nostalgia is definitely part of it. Deborah Cartmel makes an interesting comparison to the 1940 Pride and Prejudice film.
Like a Greer Garson one.
Yeah, that one became popular during World War II, offering this comforting vision of England. Cartmel suggests the 2005 film might function similarly now.
As a comfort watch in uncertain times.
Sort of. A reassuring story of love and things working out, maybe evoking nostalgia not just for the story's era, but even for, well, 20 years ago.
That makes sense. A kind of escapism.
Yeah.
But is it just comfort?
Probably not entirely. Justin Smith offers another angle. He talks about a potential nostalgia for romance and courtship that predates the rituals and conventions of the digital age.
Ah, so nostalgia for a predating app world.
Kind of, yeah. The film shows this very tangible and raw nature of emotion and of human intimacy. People meeting, talking, reacting face to face.
Without swiping left or right.
Exactly. That depiction of a more maybe organic way of connecting and falling in love might feel particularly appealing now in our super digital world.
Okay, so summing this up then. It sounds like the 2005 film struck gold by, one, taking some creative liberties, especially in making Darcy's feelings much more visible, more cinematic.
Right, making him perhaps more relatable or conventionally appealing to modern eyes.
Two, it fleshed out the world a bit, giving moments to other characters, making it feel like a richer family story. And three, today, it taps into this mix of nostalgia, both for his own time and for the kind of pre-digital romance it depicts.
That seems like a fair summary. It created this powerful emotional connection by externalizing internal feelings, especially Darcy's. Those choices, while different from Austen's novelistic approach, clearly work for audiences.
Which brings us back to you, listening. This whole dive really shows how adaptations aren't just copies, right? They're interpretations.
Yeah, they can offer new ways into a story.
And how even small changes, a look, a setting, a hand flex, can totally change how we connect with it.
Definitely. Which leads to maybe a final thought for you to chew on.
Go for it.
Given how much people still adore this particular adaptation, what does that tell us about what we want now when we watch classic stories? Are we more drawn to seeing emotions spelled out visually, even if it means the adaptation moves a bit away from the original book?
Are we looking for that visible inner life more than, say, textual faithfulness? Interesting question to ponder.